Recently, I watched a movie that I knew nothing about, and as I was watching it, I started thinking, this is so good. I hope that this is so iconic in the future. And then I went online after the movie was over, and the consensus seems to be that it's bad. Welcome to Vanessa Jupiter's sitting room, and today we're doing a very passionate defense of the movie Wounds from 2019. Quick rundown of the plot of Wounds. Will is a bartender who works the night shift at this bar called Rosie's. And we also have Eric, who's the most regular there. Eric is this aggressive dude who seems to drink a lot and who seems to have like issues of his own. He lives right above the bar as well. A few teenagers come into the bar. One of them is over 21, so he manages to get a drink for everybody else as well, and Will kind of allows it. And Eric starts fighting with someone who is not a regular customer, and this guy that he's fighting with goes ahead and stabs his face with a broken bottle. The teenagers take a bunch of pictures of the whole incident, and then they leave, and there's a cell phone on the floor that is left. Will picks up the cell phone and goes back to his home to find his girlfriend Carrie, who he lives with. Obviously, spooky stuff happens. Let me start by just saying the things that I really like about it. The visuals. If you know about Wounds, you probably know the image of Dakota Johnson staring into a computer. Dakota Johnson is the actress who plays Carrie. She's looking into like this black and white tunnel, and I mean, that image pops into my head at night sometimes. Dakota Johnson was looking into a black and white tunnel, like we're all doomed. The cockroaches. There are so many cockroaches in the movie, and they are so creepy. And one of the things that I love about cockroaches is the fact that they look like disgusting in a way that makes it seem like they might go under your skin. There's a big scene in the middle of the movie with a rash that Will starts scratching and scratching until it bleeds. What is a rash if not something that is under your skin? The viewing experience of Wounds is extremely uncomfortable. I want to make a passionate defense of it, so I need to talk about the stuff that people say that they don't like about the movie, right? A lot of people claim that the movie is boring, that the structure of the movie makes no sense. There is a cell phone that is found in the beginning of the movie, and it occupies a weird amount of time in the story because it's like the main focus of everything that is happening. Suddenly the focus shifts. I understand why that might be boring. In fact, the first time that I watched the movie, I thought that it was boring at points as well. But when I rewatched it, the experience of Wounds was the exact opposite of boring. It was exhausting. The movie just didn't let me relax because it was this uncomfortable experience. Even though I knew where it was going, it was doing everything wrong and it was clearly trying to get under my skin, even through the storytelling that didn't give me anything I wanted. The second main criticism that people have of the movie, that it's not thematically cohesive enough. Central to the plot is the way that Carrie talks to Will, the way that she refers to Will as a mock person. It seems to be the theme of the movie. How Will has no idea of who he is and he just goes along with whatever happens to him. I think that this is particularly poignant in the fact that Eric, the customer from the bar who lives just above it, he has a Confederate flag right in front of his bed. Will just accepts that Confederate flag. I don't want this channel to become super repetitive or anything, but this is a centrist criticism. This is basically pointing to Will as this character who tries to get along with everybody, and therefore he doesn't want to fight with anyone. And him not choosing to fight with a racist is easier than for him to stand up against racism. If you don't put yourself in a specific position, you will always go in the side that has power. So if Will is indeed a mock person, he will be in the side of whoever has the power, the side of the oppressor, the side of Eric. And Will is not and cannot be argued to be a sympathetic character. It just adds to this element of disturbing the fact that Will, as bad as he is, he still feels kind of like a regular dude that we might encounter, that we might even to some extent like a little bit. The movie has themes that are extremely poignant, and people love saying that the movie has no idea what it's trying to say because it's throwing so much onto your face and it clearly like has no idea what it's trying to say when that's obviously not true. After having read the short story that it's based on, there's one other element that I find fascinating, which is the character of Carrie. And Carrie is the person who is cursed. She's the one who's staring at a screen. And who are we following? We're following the bad boyfriend. We are in the perspective of the character who is complacent, the character who is failing to provide help. This is kind of the crux of what I want to defend about Wounds. One of the places where it succeeds, like with a perfect score, is in uniqueness. It's in the perspective of a bad boyfriend while he's complacent, seeing his girlfriend get cursed. It just does so many things in so many unique and cool ways. People keep on saying that horror has become formulaic and boring, but then they ignore or they like harp on something like Wounds that like tried so many new exciting things. The last thing that everyone says about this movie, this one hits hard for me. People love to claim that Dakota Johnson was underused in this movie. Dakota Johnson has not been underused in this movie. Dakota Johnson has little screen time. Carrie has every single one of the best lines of the movie. Carrie is in every single one of the most iconic moments of the movie. The fact that the movie subverts the expectation of following Carrie and instead focuses on Will is precisely the point. And Dakota Johnson kills it. Like, I mean, she always does. We all agree that Dakota Johnson is amazing. We all agree that Dakota Johnson deserves to be on the movie, on every horror movie. Claiming that Dakota Johnson was underused in this movie is like nonsense. When you go to bed, do you remember Will or do you remember Carrie? Do you remember Carrie looking at the screen or do you remember Will looking at the phone? You remember Carrie. You remember Carrie looking at the screen and being stuck then. I think that Wounds is a criminally underrated horror film. Honestly, this is the theory that I have. That people expected something because the director from Under the Shadow, because like Under the Shadow is kind of this amazing indie darling that like still follows a pretty classic structure of a movie. It's amazing, don't get me wrong. I love Under the Shadow. I might like it more than Wounds, but coming out of Under the Shadow, people were expecting something. And then they got this weird monstrosity of a movie. Unsettling, disturbing, and incoherent mess of a movie. And instead of understanding that the unsettling, disturbing, incoherent mess was the idea, the point of the movie, I feel like people are just like, this nonsense, incoherent mess. Hate it. And it's just so frustrating. This will be iconic in 20 years. In 20 years, you'll all know. In 20 years, you'll look at this review and you'll be like, Vanessa Jupiter is right. Thank you for watching. You might notice that I'm a bit of a mess. I'm honestly surprised that I managed to record at all. This was ramblier than usual. I spoke a little bit faster. This is me trying to get a hold of what it means to create videos like this. Thank you for bearing with me while I'm making a lot of experiments. This has been Vanessa Jupiter's Sitting Room, a very passionate defense of the movie Wounds. Love, Vanessa Jupiter.